І зараз ми почнемо співати. Right now we're going to start with the report. So can we have your attention please as to how we're going to do it all. Can I have your attention please? Since we have two groups of questions for odd number tables and also even numbers as well, we're going to start with groups group 1 questions. So it will be questions pertaining to parishes. Ми почнемо з звітів, ті, що є на запитання для групи номер 1, що стосується щодо парадів. Ми закінчимо з парадами, тоді ми перейдемо до архієпархії. So right now, excuse me. Thank you. So right now we're going to start with table number 1, then number 3, and on. And I'm going to be coming up with each table, and I will stand the microphone. So please have the speaker ready. And also the way you will say whatever you came up with, please make it short, succinct there. And also the following group that's supposed to do presentation, please pay attention as to what the first group had to say, or others had to say, as to not to repeat, and make that kind of quicker, faster moving from table to table. Alright? So we're going to start with table number 1, which I believe is over there. Alright, who is going to speak? Table number 1. Alright. You have about 2 minutes. Well, question number 1, this is the weekly mod. Question number 2, this is the weekly mod. You can be seated. And also, I want to point out to you, we do have secretary of our Sobor, and this Father Andrei on the back, who is here. He is kind of ours from Philadelphia, but also he is working, and also he is spiritual director at the seminary in Canada. He's very kind to be here with us and to make our notes. Question.
Question 1, a couple positive was building of a new church for one of the parishes was a really positive experience. Everyone was involved, and when they dedicated the church, it was a really beautiful experience. They also then went on to build a community center, and they felt like this whole experience was very inviting for all the people. If you, and this is in quotes, if you build it, they will come, and that's what happened. This is for the parish in Whippany, New Jersey. Another positive experience would be the Easter meal, and so that was for question 1. Question 2, some of the challenges. Whereas building a new church was a positive experience, it can also be difficult. Finances can become difficult as you go through that process. Young people are still not coming to make up the difference for people that are leaving or dying. So that could be a negative. Another negative is trying to, or not that it's a negative, but it's a challenge, trying to meld the parishioners that are already in the parish with new immigrants that are coming in. There could be problems, that could be problematic. So the question then would be how to open the church to everyone, make it more inviting, and everybody then would need to keep an open mind. A challenge is also for that occasion where it's just a Sunday parish, and distance is an issue, and you have priests going a lot of different places, so, or at least to a couple. So that was some of the challenges, and then ways that we can strengthen our community. Try to encourage activities that are centered around families, deliberate outreach to new immigrants to make the church inviting for them to come, because they're going to be important to the future of the church. And again, immigrants need to be open to differences. It's not going to be maybe the church you had in the Ukraine, but it's the church that's in this country, and we need to work to understand that. So that's basically overcoming the cultural divide. And another suggestion is maybe more Bible study for our churches and how to relate that to our liturgy.
Thank you very much. And whatever you found. Okay. Thank you. Next is table number 3. Who is going to be the speaker?
Our table had a discussion that really started with the Trinity. That's where everything starts. That's celebration of the liturgy. Everyone participating in the liturgy. Those things are very important. From there, it extends out into the parish parishioners themselves by integrating old immigration versus new immigration. Various parishes hold coffee and donuts or gatherings after the liturgy where everyone can discuss and become more community-oriented. All the parishes seem to be involved in fundraising. They address issues as those issues come up in a spirit of community. One of the things that someone at our table was very impressed with was how we have councils, pastoral councils and financial councils here in the United States, and how at a moment's notice 12 to 15 people, when they're called, when they're asked to attend the meeting, show up within an hour to help out. There are also, it seems, a lot of parishes and priests that participate with the community. They're either fire chiefs, they're either chaplains for fire chiefs, chaplains for the police department. So being involved in the community is that critical. Also, within our local area, Centralia. Centralia still lives. The community was devastated by the mine fire. However, the community gets together every Saturday night for church, for liturgy, and then once a year for a pilgrimage. And this has brought outsiders into the community, into the church, to Centralia, to kind of express our faith. If charitable works are done for the community, by the priests, by the parishioners. There was also an example of a sandwich and soup that's held every week to invite those people who really don't have anything to come in and give them a place to sit, to talk, and while they're being served, the parishioners talk with those people, call them by their first name. And this is an extension of our community of being a Christian.
Thank you very much. Now, table number 5. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Ryan Olney. I'm from the Shrine of the Holy Family in Washington, D.C. And before I give my responses, I think our table felt that we were very blessed to have quite a diversity of views at our table, in that we had both lay people, priest, a religious sister, and that we come from parishes of varying levels of vibrancy, I think you could say, and different geographic regions. So we had a very good discussion. In terms of positive experiences of communion, one thing that I think we all recognize is that the importance of lay involvement and volunteers in our parishes who are active in charitable works and in helping also with liturgical ministries such as cantoring or with the choir, and that this helps to relieve the administrative burden on pastors. So we have a lot of lay people who are working with our priests. Some of the challenges and obstacles that we've experienced, ethnicity and language barriers, I think were the first that we discussed. Also, a rejection, both by clergy and lay communities, of strangers who are coming to visit our churches. That sort of ties in with, I think, the ethnic and language barriers that we sometimes have, as well as those who may have personal or stigmatizing issues that they're dealing with in their life. Moreover, we have aging populations, particularly in rural or inland upstate areas, and we've lost our youth. So we need to figure out how to reach out to youth. In terms of ways to strengthen and nurture communion, we had a few practical things. We think it would be important to understand better the role of the pastoral council in parish life and how lay people can sort of take responsibility for stepping up. We talked about the reintroduction of the exchange of peace, which was done on a limited basis after the last Sobor, I think, and having an explanation of why we do things like the exchange of peace or forgiveness vespers. Having catechesis for adults and not just for children. At least for children coming home, catechism should continue in the house. And having adults who understand our faith, who understand the nature of being in communion, as in the Holy Trinity, that's essential to having vibrancy in our parishes. Parishes want to see episcopal visitation and the presence of the bishop in the eparchy, and I think from the 100 Days report, we're all very proud to see that already happening. So we hope that it continues. And then we think it's important, and this goes beyond the parishes, to understand that the problems that our church faces in America are so different than what they face in Ukraine or in European diaspora, and that we're not so much needing to build churches here, but to take on more of a physical churches, but to take on a missionary outlook and to bring people to church so that we need to build churches.
Thank you very much. Table number 7.
Joe Krasinski from St. Mary's McAdoo, and we have parishes around the table representing McAdoo, Philadelphia, Connecticut, Pottstown, West Easton, and Perth Amboy, and highlighting some of the positive experiences that were mentioned in our discussion. One parish talked about leveraging their anniversary celebration to renew interest among members, even who have long since moved out of the area or haven't been participating. There was discussion about regularly scheduled prayer gatherings at one parish and other kinds of services scheduled, in particular, in this instance, on the first Wednesday of each month. Gatherings for meals, whether it's the food preparation or the dining together, creates an opportunity for parishioners to get to know each other beyond just seeing them eat each other at liturgies, and creates a bond between them. The various picnics and bazaars are seen as very positive developments, and some of them have been doing quite well. One member here at the table talked about hosting neighboring parishes for various events and services to create a connection with those neighboring parishes. A couple have used coffee hours after every liturgy. Some efforts to reactivate or activate holy name societies. More extensive use of social media, live streaming of liturgy to reach people who can't necessarily travel or people who are distant. So those are some of the highlights of the positives. Some obstacles mentioned were getting new members, declining populations, fewer children in families. At times, some have felt they haven't always had the most engaged and welcoming pastor with their congregations. There is a reality on Sundays that there's heavy competition with sports, and sometimes that keeps people away from participating. And some of the elderly have transportation issues for getting to liturgy and so forth and participating in activities. In terms of opportunities to strengthen, greater leverage of social media and technology in general, more use of inter-parish gatherings and activities, and really just trying things. being realistic, celebrating incremental progress and change, rather than setting unrealistic expectations and having people disappointed when there are giant turnouts or very high participation in some committees and groups. One strong observation is sometimes activities like a food sale or a rummage sale might generate some money, but maybe the more important value is in the way that it brings people together. And we just need to be more welcoming, constantly invite over and over again, even if we feel like invitations are ignored. It's on us to keep welcoming and keep inviting until the message finally breaks through, and to really ask people, not where have you been or where are you, but what can we do and how can we be in order to make you feel like coming around and participating somewhere.
Thank you very much. Wonderful observations. And now table number 9, still knowledge baggage. Proszę.
Ja nazywam się Marta Jaromowicz, z Cerkwy Chrystusa w Filadelfii. Otóż pierwsze pytanie. Pytanie jest pozytywні речі. Маємо добрих, гарних людей, віруючих і відкриті парафії для всіх людей. І маємо добрих священників. Тепер, деякі церкви опинилися, на друге питання, деякі церкви опинилися в невідповідному місці. Ніхто не мешкає в тих околицях. Люди приїжджають з далеких сторін. Тепер є також замало релігійного виховання в родинах. Діти мають в неділю різні спорти в неділю. Родичі побожні беруть дітей до іншої церкви на ранню очну до святу літургію, або навіть до Римо-католицької, а не побожні не будуть до жадної. Тепер третє. Треба створювати молитовні групи при парафії, спеціально молитви на величі. У нас чомусь то не практикується молитви на величі. Читання Святого Письма і пояснення його під час Святої літургії. По святій літургії добре мати спільне снідання з родинами. Дякую.
Дякую, Марко. People number 11, where are you at? Right here, there you are.
The majority of the people here at this table come from smaller parishes. And so, in smaller parishes, the positives are working together. Many of them need much money and to keep going. And so fundraising is a way that has provided some very good experiences for people of working together and of being united. And also of learning that you don't always have to agree with everybody else in the group, but you kind of come to a way of a consensus of how you're going to do it, even though you do not necessarily agree with one another and you may fight. But the outcome is to come together and to work together. Everyone, in working together, you're also pulling other people in. In smaller parishes, there is a need to step up, to pull people in, to help, and things like that. And so it's a way of getting to know other people and of bringing them in. In larger parishes, also, because our parishes aren't very, very large, but even in larger parishes, the getting to know one another, to celebrate with one another. Our parishes are small enough where pretty much everyone knows each other, So we kind of can be with each other to celebrate when parishioners are celebrating, to help when people are in need, to cry with each other when people are lost. And so that's a very big positive and something that brings together our churches. A negative that was brought up is, again, in smaller churches, there are oftentimes too many chiefs and not enough Indians, was what was said. People have their roles and want to keep their roles, but sometimes their roles stop them from working together because they have this particular thing to do, and there isn't anybody else to do the other things. So that's kind of a negative. Another thing that was brought up is sometimes when pastors are in a parish for too long, like 50 years was brought up, or a time like that, it becomes difficult to make changes in the parish. People coming, new pastors coming in, bring new ideas, but everyone is so used to what they've been doing for 50 years that the new ideas become difficult to embrace, and that can be a difficulty for everyone. We're not reaching out to others in some of our parishes as far as to our youth. Easter services and other services are often too long for the children, and so children find it hard to be there without things that are directed toward them completely. Another priority, or another thing that might be a priority, is that because sports take a priority over church, is it a possibility to begin to do some sort of education of parents so that they can make choices that are more religiously based as opposed to sporting events and things like that?
If you would make just highlights
Okay.
of that, you will submit the report and it will go in.
Okay.
And we will work with that.
All right. The things that people see is that children need to be involved in parishes, and we need to go out and live what we believe in other places, and that will draw people into our parishes. We also need education from other people for adults.
Table number 30. I'll come to you.
A lot of my name is Anna Barber from Potsdam Church. A lot of our ideas and discussions are duplications of what a lot of people have said, so I'll go over very quickly. We found that our churches work better with group effort. It can be difficult, but positive. We do pierogi sales, clothing sales. It's always positive whether or not it's financially successful or not. Big anniversary celebrations for the churches and our priests have brought a lot of people together. It keeps traditions alive, and it supports our church. Our wonderful priests are very important to bring people in. Churches have big Sunday schools. We have young, very young and active church families. Local clubs have supported our church. Bible studies, weekly catechisms classes. One church has DVDs on religious subjects. They sponsor a lending library. Active participation is so important for common causes to keep the churches running, and especially the smaller ones. Parish events unite parishioners, and some churches actually get together and send packages to Eastern Ukraine to help the churches there, which I think is a great idea. Things we need: establish new parishioner welcomes, more education on our history, mandatory for churches to work together with each other instead of just separately, more active involvement by other people, English masses because we have some language issues, to push to increase attendance, to strengthen what are common needs and interests so that different churches can get together for group participation. Welcome locals and greet new people, to schedule more activities to get the churches together, and one thing that was just mentioned, to show by example, to mingle, to attend other functions and support other churches, just not our own, and to remember the basic Christian ideals and to practice them. They're the strengths that we need.
Table number 13, we're starting on Monsignor Doni. There he is. Who is the speaker?
We found that there were a number of us that have older parishes here at this table. And we found that we share a lot of the same experiences. And what happens is the people in the communities, we know a lot about our parishioners, about each other, because we've been there forever. And some of the groups that have been established, like the free soup and sandwich groups, the pierogies, the food committees, the choirs, they foster unity because you get to know the other people, you spend time with them, you become friends, you follow their lives, you know what's happening. The other thing that we found is that education, we discussed it. Education is one of the most important things. You have a Catholic school, it's important to keep it. Religious instruction, it's very important. School and education is the future for our parishes, and if the children don't get it, they're not going to continue. Some of the problems we found are pretty similar to what everybody else said too. And it's finances, because we're losing parishioners. Some suggestions were made about doing things to attract parishioners. A lot of our churches have lost people that used to come and just don't come anymore. Suggestions were made that maybe we could do telephone calling and say, hey, we miss you, try coming back. The other thing that we need are priests that are strong, vibrant, willing to work, willing to be available to their parishioners. And we think that's a very important fact, and I think that's something that can help a great deal.
I have just two things to add real quickly here to our table. In our parish in Bridgeport, we have a lot of altar boys, but the most faithful altar boy we have is a fellow that's right across the street, so he's available Sunday, Saturday, Friday, whenever I call him. And he is the most pious altar boy I've had since Father Robert was my altar boy. Where's Father Hitchinson? Behind. This boy puts his hands like this 10 minutes before sluice bell, right? And he don't drop them until he receives communion, and he goes back and sings. And he's a Spanish boy. He was born in Mexico City. And his parents are the most beautiful neighbors I ever had in my life. They brought me another couple, a friend of theirs. This couple wanted to get married. This altar boy's parents brought me a couple. And they didn't know 2 words in English, so I got a translator to see what their problem was. And they said, Father, you're the only church in town. They closed all the Roman Catholic churches in Winter. No more churches. They took the money and ran, sold everything off. And this couple couldn't speak a word of English. The translator said, Father, they're Catholics, they're baptized, they got me some documents. And Father Robert got me a translation of our Ukrainian marriage crowning ceremony in Spanish. So I studied and I read it. And we had this wedding in Spanish. And there were only 30 people in church. And 25 were females. And they said, Father, do you sing in church? I said, sure we sing. And so before the wedding started, we practiced sing Los Bonico Mil in Spanish. And it's called Señor ten Piedad, right? We practiced. Señor ten piedad, Señor ten piedad, Señor ten piedad. And the girls all sang. It was the most beautiful unity. I said, and they wanted to give me $2, $3, you know, like we do in Mexico City. I said, no, you gave me more than money. You gave me a great joy. In my years as a priest, I'm the oldest serving priest in this archdiocese. And they gave me more excitement and joy and a challenge to make their wedding special. And so we must embrace our immigrants, especially our Ukrainian immigrants, because we know they're going to be lost and eventually we will be too. So embrace all the immigrants that come to your door, because they're our future. They're our future. Thank you. Thank you.
If you would like to hear more stories, Father Armin will be here. Okay, next is table 17, and who is the speaker here?
Okay, our table, the most beautiful, positive experience that happens in all of the parishes is Holy Communion Eucharist. Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. And that's celebrated every Sunday. Another one is the beauty of the church, not just the physical beauty, which people are confronted with instantly, but also the spiritual life. A positive one parishioner had is that he will give tours of his parish because many people in the city of Baltimore will come, and he will give them a tour. With that is a challenge in that he invites them to come to the liturgies, and many times they will not, or they don't come. So that's something to try to overcome. Another positive parishioner said is they have a social hour, coffee following church. Another one commented that she sees growth in their parish life, especially more children and families coming, and that brings in an excitement and energy to the church, and she finds it very moving. Some of the parishioners mentioned that they had more Roman Catholics coming to their parish because of what's happening in their parishes. With that goes some of the challenges, because you don't have to talk about the challenges. One challenge is many of the people who come feel far into our parishes to the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, and even when encouraged, rarely come to celebrate the Divine Liturgy or to join the parish. And some people are commenting to get past the sense of social club mentality. In line with that, those three is how to strengthen and nurture the community, which is also some of this they see happening in our parish, which is a positive, is that welcoming and encouraging fallen away Catholics, Ukrainian Greek Catholics, even to come back to church, to share in the sacraments. One of the key sacraments that's mentioned is beautiful in the church is confession. Only the Catholics and Orthodox who can talk to God, Jesus Christ directly, and he will answer you. So they mentioned some of the things is to actively welcome strange faces in the church. With the challenge of that is to get past your personal fear, to go to that stranger and say, thank you for coming. A challenge is to teach the 10 Commandments, obey the commandments, and share the catechism of the church. That's basically ours. Oh, and one other positive, one parish mentioned, they have a catechetical program for all grades, 1st through 12th.
Wonderful. Thank you. Table number 19. Who's the speaker? 2 minutes.
Okay. Дякую, Владико. Слава Ісусу Христу. My table elected me to be their spokesperson. So, on the first question, that was about positive experiences of communion and unity. There were comments like Father's preaching in one instance always includes the people. They feel his good demeanor with them. He's not over their head. And he has lots of enthusiasm, and when necessary, he's a good negotiator. There was also a comment that he doesn't bring up money from the pulpit. And I know a lot of priests that don't do that unless absolutely need to, so this was good. There's a good unity between the priests and the people. They felt that was the point of communion. Coffee hour or social meetings like that after church, they feel that's a very good welcoming tool. And someone experiences a very direct approach by their priest. And what they get out of that is that the priest needs them. They feel included, they feel needed, and everybody is included in that, that scope. There's also someone mentioned about having movies, religious, content, coffee hours, dinners, things like that. And another point of unity was mentioned that of choir. Parishes, wherever you are, that you still have choirs, God bless you, and nurture that, encourage it, because we need that. That's who we are. We all come from that. And the era of well-trained professional cantors is almost a memory now. So wherever that is, God love you. Okay. The challenges or obstacles. A couple times this was mentioned about language. Some people don't speak Ukrainian. So where there's a Ukrainian presence, that has to be considered. And one other will put it this way. English speakers need to be more patient and understanding with Ukrainian speakers and vice versa. So just do unto others, basically. Consideration, respect of one another. I have had experiences myself where the parish was so welcoming to some new immigrant families, and all of a sudden everything started to blossom. And then you saw how much the new immigrants really did know a few words in English and weren't ashamed to speak it because they saw they were being welcomed. Then, in this case, people are very mobile these days. They live far from the church. That village experience that a lot of them had when they came here, of living close to the church, and every church was the center of everything, it's not quite that way now. So they depend on cars and transportation. They suggested that only once a week services or once a week meeting between the people is not enough. They would like to see more things going on during the week. And safety in our neighborhoods and around the church, that has to be. There's some instances where I know of one where there was a security guard present around, it's our Old Chester Church, I'll tell you, every time there were any services. And they had to because the neighborhood is not what it was when the church was new. So they dealt with it. And also, that there has to be a current effort to keep information about the parishioners current and confidential, but in the sense of a census. I don't know how many parishes have had a census in recent years. Do we do that? Is your Rolodex up to date, or where you keep your files, your computer files? That you'll see in your envelopes. Some of you, when you put your envelopes out, there are so many not picked up. Are they dead? Are they in nursing homes? I mean, we need to know. That's incumbent not only on the priest, but on those few people who work with him to make sure we know where people are and so forth. Okay, the last one was suggestions about, what's it put here? Strengthen and nurture communion unity. Have more frequent weekly options outside of the Sunday liturgy. Maybe Vespers on a feast day. Maybe movies. Handicap accessibility. It's the norm these days. It's not a new idea. And where you have handicap access into your church, you need to have a restroom on the same level where the people are worshiping. Because you never know somebody elderly at the steps in the downstairs bathroom. All of that comes into play. It's important that new people feel welcome. Do you need greeters in your church? Perhaps. People remember when after church they were invited, well, come on over with us and have some coffee. There's somebody who was mentioned here who now comes back to that church every week because they were welcomed. So the little things turn out to be big things. Maybe you need greeters at your church, and the best is when people come in. Even if it's your own people, they're still welcomed. Bring in a guest speaker every so often, or somebody from the community. Bible study discussion groups was mentioned about that. And finally, it was that this Sobor, not to be forgotten, is a very positive and good step that encourages unity. I hope you all feel that. And someone even mentioned, as far as speeches go, can the stage be used because it's higher up and that whoever speaking can be seen? Yakuyu.
Thank you. Table number 21. Here's Donovan.
In reference to the first question, the positive experiences of communion and unity, we've identified that the old Ukrainians and the new immigrants were staying apart. They were not, how would you say, together. There was isolation. So in order to create more unity, these groups were asked to attend all of the events that were occurring. Also, groups were brought together to discuss about their common differences and to see how they could be resolved. Now, the second question about the challenges and obstacles, what we've identified is that parishes are in a sort of a hospice, that they are dying, and by that we meant that the attendance in parishes have been dwindling. So one recommendation was to provide a survey to the parishioners to identify why they don't attend liturgies on Sundays and don't attend as in general. And the results of these surveys should be reviewed, studied, and hopefully resolutions could be made. Number two, another challenge was the hurt feelings of disconnect sometimes with the priests, with parishioners, and that causes a lot of separation in the churches. People don't come to church because they don't like the priests, they don't like the parishioners, and that needs to be identified and dealt with. Also, language obstacle, 50% do not want the English liturgy, another 50% do not want the Ukrainian liturgy, and that also becomes a problem. Third question, in what ways can we strengthen and nurture communion? Is the need to focus on welcoming all people from all walks of life, not just the new immigrants, but whoever comes to welcome them. There should be also classes about history and traditions, and all should be encouraged to attend. Another challenge, in order to bring more youth to our parishes, we've identified that perhaps a late Sunday liturgy would be in order due to, unfortunately, outside activities. People would prefer going to outside activities rather than to church. So in order to accommodate better attendance and provide more opportunity for people to come to church on Sunday, a late afternoon liturgy could be provided. Also, updating teachings for the youth, which is relevant to today's society, and that would help them to understand why they should come to church. I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Donna. Next table is table number 3. And once again, please stick to making points, suggestions that were not mentioned before, so that we would not keep on repeating the same ones. But you all will be submitting your written reports, and we're going to see everything, whatever you worked on over that time. Question.
We have many of the same things that we've heard. As good Ukrainians, a lot of the positive feelings came from sharing food. So we had the coffee hours, the festivals, and many of the things that have been mentioned already, Christmas and Easter dinners. Catholic days. But in order also to be able to break the bread, you have to, which is what communion is, you have to be able to break the word, which is to understand the scriptures and traditions. So we also mentioned religious education, which is not only for children, but opportunities for adults to increase their knowledge of faith and tradition. When we talk about outreach, the outreach to the community, as far as the challenges go, we mentioned the same things that we've heard again, age, distance to the churches. Where do people go when the Ukrainian or ethnic churches are closed? Do they find the next nearest church, or do they simply get assimilated into the Roman Catholic churches? Language we talked about, and the issues of retaining people who are already in the parish. It's not only a matter of attracting new parishioners, but keeping the ones that we have, and especially keeping the children or keeping people who show up for the sacraments and are never to be seen again after the marriage or the baptism or the first penance or the cremation. As far as strengths, we talked about, again, keeping the traditions of hospitality, the coffee hours after liturgies, in order for parishioners to get to know each other, the birthday parties. We talked about, again, other opportunities for learning, whether they're missions in Lent, Easter, or other educational opportunities. And we also talked about information sharing of what's going on in other parishes. And outreach to the community is not just a matter of between the churches, but what else are we offering to the community.
Thank you. And the last table in that group is table number 25. Who is the speaker? You? Okay.
Your Grace, I assure you, you all paid attention. We had an excellent discussion. I took good notes. And the risk of I don't see that we need to repeat everything that was said already. Am I correct, fathers? Yes. Okay, fathers, be correct.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, fathers, sisters, we heard those that were working on question group number 1, and it is about strengths, weaknesses, and ways to nurture our unity in our parishes. Now we have to switch over to question that groups number 2 had, and it is about positive experiences of communion in our archdiocese, also challenges and also weaknesses or problems too. And they're going to start with table number 2. First table number 2. Number 2. There you go. Once again, please keep it kind of sweet and short. And our speaker is Mr. John McCart from Macro Parish.
Some of the positive experiences of communion and community we have in our FRP are participating in some of the events in the FRP, such as attending the papal visit that we had a few years ago, visiting Centralia or Glencoe or Sloatsburg or Fox Chase. These are all religious experiences and an opportunity to meet other of our Ukrainians at these events. The second thing was the enthronement and installation of Metropolitan Doors. A lot of people together for this occasion. The Sobors are also was a positive experience. The League of Ukrainian Catholics, formed from countless immigrants and remote education, is another positive experience. the publications that come out of the Chancellery, the way it's shot. These are also communications very important to. It's another positive experience. The outreach to Roman Catholics, to Catholic University. This helps us define who we are. We all part of the same church. Conferences for religious education, for both for the clergy and laity, and retreat conferences, primarily for the clergy.
That's the bigger list.
Some of the challenges of obstacles to living communion and unity in the Archieparchy are, again, language, both spoken and printed. There's a disconnect between, because of language, between laity and priests. Intermarriages between Ukrainian Catholics and Roman Catholics, between Catholics and Protestants, and between Catholics and other religions. There's an aging population and passing down traditions, getting the children to be more involved. There's number 3 is in what ways can we strengthen and nurture communications and unity in our Archieparchy. We talked about more meetings for laity on the Archieparchal level, promoting both languages, and more outreach to university students and young adults and newly married couples.
Okay, thank you very much. You listed as elite as marriages between Roman Catholics and Ukrainian Catholic Protestants. I don't think it's a weakness. Challenge. Okay, table number 4. The speaker is on your order.
Я називаюся Ольга Мавин. Я є голова спільноти церкви Святого Івана Хрестителя в Україні, Джерсі. Церква, яка була збудована лемками понад 100 років тому. І так, 3 пункти. Позитивні прояви. Перше. Прощі, які відбуваються у нас щорічно. Чи то є Собор, чи то є Філадельфія. Люди можуть поділитися своїм і обмінятися своїм досвідом. Єдності наша сила. Зв'язок з Україною, відновлення миру, цінність нашої культури, традицій, звичаїв, молитва за Україну, відправити виключну музику на українській мові. Святкування ювілейних заходів, зустріч митрополита з молоддю, так було на пласті, на Сумі, ваше блаженство, і щось такого наподобі від серця до серця. Присутність митрополита серед парафіян обов'язкова. Це є цінність нашої архієпархії, щоб пастор був разом зі своїми вівцями. Дуже важливий доступ до створення соціальних мереж, щоб ми могли дізнатися про події, які відбуваються в архієпархії. Питання номер 2. Виклики, перешкоди. Дуже важливо створити якийсь методичний, або розробити, створити методичний матеріал, створення спільного читання і глибше вивчення, студіювання Святого Письма в кожній архієпархії, в кожній парохії. Номер 2. Колись я була на з'їзді молодь Христові в Києві. Було надзвичайно гарно і дуже було багато залучено студентів з різних куточків України. Може щось таке би зробити тут, молодь Христові. Обмін між учнями. Український католицький університет. Моя учениця поїхала того року вчити англійську мову. Вона надзвичайно задоволена задоволена і ділилася своїм досвідом. І вона була перший раз в Україні і хоче поїхати ще і ще. А навіть взяти тих студентів, ту молодь, і якось зробити так, щоб вони були, побачили той музей Йосипа Сліпого у Римі, в Святій Софії. Я була там, це надзвичайне враження, щоб діти щось навчилися, побачили, а навіть їх завести на радіо Ватикан і показати. От подивіться, ото є наша служба, проводиться в такі-то годині, в такі-то годині. Це є дуже добра думка. Брак залучення ми маємо молоді до церковних заходів. Недостатність обізнаності зі знань теології. Номер 3. Як можна зміцнювати, викликати єдність в нашій архієпархії? Ну, ми так поговорили, що можна навіть було би створити якесь радіомовлення, може якесь телебачення тут у нас на наших теренах. Я не говорю про Чикаго. Дуже важливо створення єдиного українського порталу для українських християн в Північній Америці і Канаді. Християнські літні табори для молоді. І все ж таки відродження, знаєте, наші, ті, що приїхали сюди після війни, якось було започатковано українські католицькі школи. Треба би було подумати над тим, щоб вони далі відродити ті українці, щоб вони не закривалися, а відчинялися, щоб то було на майбутнє покоління. Тому що рано чи пізно ми підемо з цього життя, воно лишиться майбутньому поколінню. Ми того з собою не заберемо. Якщо діти будуть ходити, пізнавати Бога в українських католицьких школах, це великий плюс для всіх, для нашої архієпархії. І як писала Ліна Костенко, хай буде все небачене побачено, хай буде все пробачене пробачено. Єдине, що від нас ще залежить, принаймні вік прожити як належить. Слава Україні! Слава Ісусу!
Table number 6. There you are. And who's going to speak at this table? It's Mrs. Becky Monaco.
Thank you. The positives that we saw for the Archieparchy that haven't been said, I believe already, are a lot of the same that we heard on the parish discussions. Multilingual services and communication is very important to make both the Ukrainian new immigrants and the American-born Ukrainians feel welcome together. And we have a lot of that across our Archieparchy. And not just the larger meetings like today, but regional meetings. When they broke down the Women's Day from only meeting all here into more regional meetings, people like that because they can find easier transportation. Some of the challenges we talked about, seats in the churches are not filled, and that challenge and burden, I think, falls on the hierarchy and the clergy who run the Archieparchy because they have to come up with some ideas, but the people have to help as well. Young people are not interested. We need to have more evangelization throughout the Archieparchy. And change is a challenge because people like to say this is how we've always done things. Solutions to strengthen and nurture. Number one is to inspire a more spiritual atmosphere because we come to church to pray to God. That should be number one and top. And even though we listed it as a positive, there are some places where the solution to institute more multilingual services and communication is important to make everyone feel welcome and to understand what they're praying and what they're doing. Increase the presence of the hierarchy and clergy at all parishes. Invite more outsiders and new immigrants to our church. Increase events, especially regional events. encourage more communication and fellowship between the eparchies. For example, there is the SingCon going on for church singers. They had it in Parma, and last weekend it was in Stamford. Next year it's going to be in Philadelphia. So that encourages participation by different eparchies together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. I think at this point we're going to stop because we're running out of time. We will start the divine liturgy at our cathedral exactly at noon. So now you have about 10-15 minute break, and please go over to the cathedral. Once the liturgy is over, I invite you back here for a good luncheon to be prepared. We're going to have luncheon up until 2 o'clock or so. And after that, we are going to continue with our reports, and then we will have the concluding session there afterwards too. Thank you very much. There have been wonderful suggestions and ideas here, and we'll follow up with that. This is something we question.